History repeated itself this week as a new version of Football Manager was dropped onto the Switch with no prior warning, much like it was last season. Football Manager 19 Touch gives Switch owners the chance to lead their teams to victory, whether they support Tottenham Hotspur, Torino, Toulouse or Trabzonspor. Glory awaits, or does it? I'm Glenn for Switchup. Let's find out. For the uninitiated, the Football Manager series is a simulation game that sees you take on the titular role of the manager of a football club. You can take on an already established superpower, throwing money around to snap up the world's best players, or you could build your own dynasty starting with a club far down the football pyramid. Either way, you are the boss. Let's start by addressing the word touch in the title. What implications does it have? Is this a poor imitation of the full game available on PC? I'm pleased to answer that with a resounding no. Whilst the Touch series is more streamlined and some elements are missing from the full game, and we'll get to that later, the core gameplay is exactly the same, down to it using the same match engine as its older brother and delivering the same core experience. This game includes clubs from 116 leagues set across 51 different countries, as well as the famed Football Manager database. A database that's so extensive, some professional clubs use it to assist them with scouting duties. When match day comes, the 3D match engine plays well. And it's nice to see your instructions playing out in front of you, from pressing high up the pitch to high defensive lines. You can observe your ideologies in motion. Tactical changes can be made on the fly with a press of the Y button, and there's a quick substitution button too. One minor gripe is how little time you have to respond to your assistant manager's advice. Sometimes a message will appear from your assistant manager asking you if you want to tweak something that he's noticed during the game. The amount of time it would take to click this with a mouse would be minimal, but moving a cursor up to click takes longer, and sometimes the message will disappear before you can even react. This isn't a problem in handheld mode with the touch controls of course, but it is a rare occasion where stick controls can cause a bit of an issue. For those old school Football Manager fans out there, the classic 2D view is still an option and allows for a bird's eye view of the action. This with 3D replays for goals is my preferred option, I must admit. Over the past few days, I've been playing a save with 10 leagues running set across 2 countries, and so far the game runs at a very impressive speed indeed. Although obviously this will start to slow down as the game has to process more data as the seasons go on, it's still very impressive to see it running so well early on. As well as the career mode, there are also 2 other game modes. These include Scenario Mode, which sees you tasked with saving a team from relegation with half a season to go, or dealing with a major injury crisis, to name just a couple. And there is also an option to create your own club. You can choose the league that you wish to play in, and you will then take the place of an existing team, changing their name, kits and stadium. It's great to see a feature like this in the Touch edition of the game, and I look forward to resurrecting Harchester United from the old Sky One show Dream Team in the coming weeks. Does anyone else remember that show, by the way? Looking at controls in a bit more detail, it's fair to say that although nothing will ever come close to the precision of a mouse in a game like this, using the control stick to navigate is much less cumbersome than you might imagine. Apart from the small gripes that I've mentioned above, movement is relatively fluid and you will be navigating the menus with ease after the first hour of playing. Pressing the L button will bring up the main menu, and it's from here that you can attend to training, access the transfer screen, or look at your scouting system, as well as access general club information. Pressing the R button will bring up an action menu relevant to whatever it is you are currently doing. For example, pressing it while looking at a player will give you the option to offer them a new contract or move them to the reserves. The right stick allows you to scroll down through lists of information such as your current squad or past winners of tournaments. During matches, the L button allows you to access statistical data and latest scores of the other matches. Touch controls work well, although it can be difficult to press certain details due to the small size of the text. On screens where there is a lot of information, it's difficult to see what more they could have done, and it's a mild annoyance at most, certainly nothing that will affect your enjoyment too much. This is a classic, albeit streamlined, Football Manager experience in the palm of your hand, and gameplay receives 19 out of 20, whilst controls receive 15 out of 20. In terms of what is new for this season's version, the major inclusions are as follows. First, you have the induction schedules. This is basically a set of optional tutorials that explain some of the intricacies of management, such as tactics, training, transfers and staff management, to give you a deeper understanding of every corner of your club. As mentioned, these are optional. In fact, you can set yourself as an experienced manager at the manager creation screen to skip this entirely, and once you have watched these tutorials, you can still choose to delegate that particular task to your assistant manager anyway. It's a nice way for newcomers to the game to get some basic advice early doors in a game that can seem incredibly daunting for the uninitiated. But it also does a good job of not spoon-feeding experienced players with things that they would already know. To go along with this, another big new feature is that the game has preset tactics that you can now choose from. Whilst you could always choose from preset formations, these tactics go a step further. You can now choose from well-established footballing philosophies such as tiki-taka or gegenpress, and the game will apply all of the key instructions to your team in terms of what they should be doing both in and out of possession. This is a great feature as it allows you to see exactly how these styles are made up, giving you an insight as to how certain tactical tweaks affect your team's style of play. You can of course completely ignore these preset styles and create one of your own, as you've always been able to do, and I'm sure a lot of veterans of the series will choose this route. Training has also had a revamp, and this is a very welcome addition. To fall in line with the full version, you can now set up mentoring groups to aid your younger players' development, as well as see which of your players have trained the hardest that week by way of their training rating. Other new features to this version include the use of both goal line technology and VAR during matches, as well as the license having been acquired for the Bundesliga and its second tier, meaning that all club badges and player face packs for those leagues are now included. As with last year's Touch edition on the Switch, there is an instant result button, ideal if you have limited time and want to finish a season or have very little left to play for. The main features missing revolve around interaction. This means details such as the pre and post match press conferences, team talks, and praising or criticising players' effort in training are all missing. You can also not use the mid-match shouts to your team as you can in the full game. It will be down to each individual how much they miss these features. I must admit that I found some of these actions quite tedious and don't really miss their inclusion, especially team talks and press conferences, but if you do enjoy those features, just be aware that they aren't in this version. It's impressive how much has been added since last year's edition, and features receives 18 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, the user interface has been given a bit of an overhaul for Football Manager 19 Touch. Everything looks quite a bit sleeker than last year's version, with menus looking clean and concise, making navigation nice and easy. The noise of the crowd is still present and correct, but this is the only real sound in the game. There is no music, as has always been the case for Football Manager games, but they've even removed the song at the title screen this year too. Looks like we don't sing when we're winning after all. Audio and visuals receive 14 out of 20. Football Manager 19 Touch costs £29.99, and apologies, but I could not find a European price anywhere. The game is yet to be released in the US and is coming out on the 6th of December. Obviously this is a higher tier price for the eShop, and your interpretation of its value would depend on your stamina for simulation games. I put about 115 hours into last year's Switch version, and to be honest that would be absolutely nothing compared to the amount of time that some people put in. It cannot be argued though that the Football Manager package, in terms of its database and the amount of content, is pretty incredible, and for the sheer potential the game offers in terms of hours you could plunge into it, it receives 19 out of 20 for value. To conclude, Football Manager 19 Touch is a solid improvement on last year's iteration and a great addition to the Nintendo Switch's library. It adds enough new features as well as a nice new coat of paint to make it worth consideration for any fans of the series, and for anyone interested in jumping into the series for the first time, this is definitely the version to get. The core gameplay is classic Football Manager, and the features that have been cut suit the game's portable profile quite well. Football Manager 19 Touch receives a Switchup score of 85%. Thank you as always everybody for watching. Please remember to leave a like if you like what you've just seen or heard, and consider subscribing for all things Switch all the time. If you are subscribed, perhaps hit that notification button to stay up to date with our latest content. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my mission of taking Dulwich Hamlet to the Premier League. Happy gaming.